Durag Wisdom here, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to I2K20.10.01. We just have around 33 days left to the most important election in our lifetime. The music you hear in the background is courtesy of Ms. Juanita. It's called Enigma. This group is called Enigma, and we are all dealing with a really big enigma right now. By the way, I'm wearing my red do-rag today in honor of the Red Death from the short story by Edgar Allan Poe, and in honor of the movie of the same name that starred Vincent Price. It's a very relevant movie. It turns out the Mask of the Red Death is so relevant today, and if you've seen the movie, it's about a evil, powerful, rich creep who takes advantage of this plague that's going on through the countryside called the Red Death. Kind of sounds familiar to me. So we are in the middle of a nightmare with a president whose idea of law and order, quote unquote, includes supporting white supremacist armed hate groups. A president who seems to be promising violence on our sacred election day if he loses. I believe that Armageddon for our country began when we decided to let a minority of religious fascists have their way with the rest of us. That eventually helped allow and support in the Y2K teens a criminal president of the US named Donnie Trump. I was born in the 1950s, in fact 1950. And the 1950s were not a paradise. That was the period of the Cold War and the A to H bomb scare. It was a time when kids like me had to do bomb drills and hunch under our desk as if those fragile furniture pieces would protect us from a fire like the sun for a brief second before we are incinerated to ash. Years later, the message has been that things changed after 9/11. Post 9/11, it is just as miserable but worse. After all, one of the major scourges in U.S. history, and the closest we came to losing our CDR, Constitutional Democratic Republic, was when those in charge in the 50s allowed a thug named Joe McCarthy to run rampant over our Constitution. People died because of McCarthy's antics. McCarthy was that generation's schoolyard bully. Had the leaders of that time stood up right at the beginning, when the McCarthy thug opened his mouth, there would have never been a blacklist, a UAC, House Un-American Activities Committee, and the destruction, literally the destruction of human lives. That was the 1950s. Here, 70 years later, the Y2K 20s, sadly and potentially, are more tragic. We have not learned post 9/11 that we are still naked apes, still yahoos licking the head yahoo's buttocks. Read Gulliver's Travels. He invented that word, the yahoo. Yes, there were naked apes in the 1950s, but they did not at least elect a McCarthy to be president of our country. Sadly and tragically, at the smelly, ripe, young age of 70, I find myself faced perhaps the end of the USA as I've known it, warts and all. We are close to 4 years in the Trump potential dictatorship. Putin approved and should get an A+ for doing precisely what the Russian dictator wanted him to do. Close to 205,000 people are dead in the USA because of coronavirus. And because of that son of a bitch in the White House, Putin is applauding. But divert O'Donnell more so, because maybe most of the dead are anti-Trumpers, with his supporters being, sadly, collateral damage, because he doesn't care about them either. He doesn't even want to touch them. It's disgusting as far as he's concerned. And since this plague has devoured mostly members of the Black and Latino communities, Divert O'Donnell is accomplishing another important purpose for his real base. Those who used to hide in the shadows and in the fecal-stained sewers. Those who used to briefly mouth their bile from the back of auditoriums before they were laughed off the floor. These, his white supremacist followers, have now gotten the legitimacy that they have always craved by the highest in our federal government, the President of the United States. Bullies, that's who's going to rule us if we allow this creep to be reelected. But have we not reached bottom? The bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom? How can we be so irresponsible, so selfish, that we forget that the decision of some may affect us all, and we're all connected? The threads. Watch the movie Threads. Most of us stayed home in the Y2K16 election. Did not vote. That was the most important election in that time, and it was. A lot of what happened to us in these 4 years would not have happened if we would have gone in and voted for Hillary Clinton. Because this creep we have in now, a sociopath on the other side of the moon, a criminal, a thug. I watched the entire quote-unquote debate Tuesday night. I've seen many classic dark satire movies in my time. I've read 1984, as you know, and Gulliver's Travels. That's another one you should read. Great satire. I was able to watch the entire event because I'd been prepared. I was not surprised, because when you live 70 years someplace, here, when you live that long there, and see how the habits grow and how they perpetuate themselves, replicate themselves, if you will, like viruses, you will feel depressed, but not surprised at this bullshit we're going through right now. Joe Biden won the debate, the quote-unquote debate, because he let the naked emperor speak for himself. I was already convinced about the bastard in our Oval Office, but there are still many undecideds out there. I can't understand it, folks. I'm banging my head against the wall trying to understand why anyone would be undecided. But that's their right. This is a free country. There, the lowlife was Donald Trump in this debate, refusing to abide by the rules that his side agreed to. Again, I was not surprised. I know what a bully is, and even though I am not a qualified psychotherapist, I've read enough and have had enough life experience to know what a sociopath is. And I even know the difference between what is defined as a sociopath and what is defined as a psychopath. What really gave me more grist was when I read Dr. Mary Trump's book. Dr. Trump is a certified psychologist. I was not surprised by her diagnosis that her uncle is a sociopath. She is in that unique position of being as close to the horse's ass as humanly possible. If anyone knows the DeVerto Donald, it is his niece. By Dr. Trump's account, Donnie was raised and groomed by his father, a sociopath in his own right, to be a killer in business. Trump learned better under his father, Fred's true tutelage, than anywhere else. How to be the best sociopath on the planet. I never deluded myself when it came to the likes of Donald Trump. I take him seriously as well as his followers. After all, Hitler would not have gotten where he did if not for his rabid fans. I witnessed at the quote-unquote debate the dark future of the USA if Trump is reelected. And worst of all, I witnessed the so-called president of the USA giving permission to and recognizing the worst of us. The murderers in waiting, the lynchers, the builders of extermination camps, the keepers of murderous fire, the Proud Boys, the KKK, the Nazis. Giving them permission to rise up violently against those who would dare vote against the Donald, as he says, your favorite president. How we've defined deviancy down to our destruction, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond belief. If we allow Trump and his thugs their way, he gave Proud Boys permission to attack us. So please, if you're living in a place where there's going to be poll watchers or anything else, make sure you bring recording equipment of some kind and or some kind of way to protect yourself in case you are intimidated, attacked, harassed. Stand up to this creep. We have a free country. We're not going to let Trump and Putin take that away from us. And I saw him tell these extremists to attack us right on the TV. And to Trump, it's a medium that's the most important thing in the world. I received my absentee ballot yesterday and am now in the process of planning my vote. My wife as well, both of us. We made sure that everything was right so far in terms of names and such on our voting. I fear that our country is falling into the hands of murderous right-wing religious extremists, totalitarian bullies. More about religious extremism later. A continuation of previous discussion. In my 70s, I may not be long for this world, but I want those youngsters, you youngsters, if you're watching this, coming up behind me, to have a better, more peaceful, more harmonious world. The planet is gorgeous. The dictators, the Trumps, white supremacists, maggots, and the Proud Boys aren't. Will there be more dead because of CV-19? Will we reach the 300,000s in COVID deaths? Will there be more mass shootings by white supremacist sociopaths with Trump's approval? Please vote. Bring someone with you. Bring as many people with you as you can in recording stuff. Or else our country falls into the hands of murderous, schoolyard, racist, bullies, sociopaths. A country where we will have a president of Proud Boys and an Armageddon for the rest of us.